Hey guys, thanks for coming today. We've had a great word camp, and I appreciate you guys sticking it out to the end. Let me very quickly introduce myself. My name is Ross Jones. About 6 months before there was a Google.com, I was already specializing in search engine optimization. I currently own 81 websites that I primarily use as a test bed to try to figure out what works and what does not work as far as internet marketing. That way we don't have to test on client websites, live client websites. The largest of my personal websites last year got about 2.5 million visitors to it, so it's fairly active. I teach a senior level marketing class at Belmont. I also teach at Art Institute where John and a couple of the other guys teach here. I teach digital marketing on the side. But the primary thing that I do is I have a small agency, as John mentioned. We offer full service web design, but primary focus is on online visibility. We have a real strength in organic search engine optimization, pay-per-click marketing, local search engine optimization. And so the other primary thing where I spend my time in the real world is that I run the Nashville SEO and Internet Marketing meetup group. How many of you guys are members of that, or you've ever come to one of our meetup groups? Well, I appreciate you guys doing that. Just so you know, it's a free group. We meet once a month, almost always on the last Thursday of the month. We meet at Belmont in McWhirter 114, a very nice classroom, very similar to this. Normally we would be meeting next Thursday, but I'm going to be out of town, so we're pushing it back 1 week. So I hope that you guys will join us on May 2nd at Belmont. We're going to be specifically talking about Google Plus for Business. You guys have all figured out Google Plus for Business, right? Or you'd like some help with that. I'm actually going to have in probably 2 guest speakers, experts in Google Plus, so I hope you'll join us for that. But today we're going to be talking about what I believe is the best SEO plugin for WordPress, and that is the WordPress SEO plugin by Yoast. The guy's name who's the developer is Yoast DeValk. And he is very prominent within the WordPress community. He gives a lot to the WordPress community, and I believe that this is what everybody should be using on their WordPress sites if you care at all about online visibility. Before you can really determine, so what is a good SEO plugin, or what's the best? I think it's important to understand the basis of search engine optimization. We're going to talk about Google today because they are the 800-pound gorilla. Google tells us that they have over 200 different factors that they look at when they're trying to decide who ranks number 1 and who ranks number 17. But all of the factors that they look at fall into 2 main areas. Google is looking for relevancy, and Google is looking for authority. If somebody searches for plumber in Nashville, they're looking for a page on your website, hopefully if you're a plumber, that Google feels is relevant to the search, plumber in Nashville. At the same time, they want you to be authoritative. If you're the only one that says you're a plumber in Nashville, or that you're the best plumber in Nashville, you're not authoritative. They want some corroboration. They want other people, other websites to back you up. So everything that Google looks at, regardless of what you're talking about, it falls primarily into those 2 categories, relevancy and authority. The Yoast SEO plugin primarily helps with the relevancy side of that. And there are 3 areas where I believe that the Yoast SEO plugin can help you a lot. The first thing is what I refer to as putting the right words in the right places. The second part of what the Yoast plugin can do is it's kind of like a GPS, guiding search engines to find the right content on your website and to stay away from any areas on your website where you don't want the search engines to be. And then finally, WordPress is a great platform content management system, website building tool straight out of the box, but the Yoast plugin helps to eliminate some of the duplicate content that is usually there on most WordPress installations. And we'll talk about these 3 things are the primary things that we're going to be talking about today. So first off, right words in the right places. Finding the right words to put on your website is generally what we refer to as keyword research, and it's the first step in search engine optimization, whether you're talking WordPress or something else. You need to understand what people are looking for. What are the words that they're going to type in? Plumber in Nashville. If you're a plumber in Nashville, people are probably typing in the words plumber in Nashville. You need to have the phrase plumber in Nashville on your website. And you need to have those words, whatever they are, in the right places on your website. Google actually tells us that if you don't have the right words in the right places, if you don't have plumber in Nashville on your website, it's really hard for Google to have you rank for plumber in Nashville, or TV repair, or orthopedic surgeon in Topeka, Kansas, or buy flat screen TVs online. Whatever you're trying to rank well for on Google, you need to have the words there. There are a number of right places to put the right words. The two where where Yoast primarily helps us is in the page title. And that's if you've got a browser open and you see up in the tabs some text up there, usually the title of the page is what's going to be displayed up in there. If you search on Google, that very first line of a Google result is usually going to be your page title. That is the single most important place that Google looks for, are you relevant? Did you put your words there? So if you're a plumber in Nashville, on at least one of your pages on your website, make sure the title of your page has the words plumber in Nashville. Does that make sense? Okay. So Yoast is going to help us make sure that we've got good page titles. The second place, and there are many more places besides the page title and the meta description where you want to put the right words. You saw a couple of slides ago. I've got kind of an infographic of all of the right places. If you want a copy of that, please connect with me on social media. I'll make sure that you get a copy of it. But the meta description is the second place where the Yoast plugin can make a difference in making sure that you have the right words. The meta description typically shows up on your on a Google result. So if we look at the screen here for a second, if you search for something on Google and you see this first top line, that's typically the title that we were talking about a second ago. And usually, right in here is where, if you have a meta description on the page, your meta description is gonna show up, and you want to use the same words, the same phrase that you're targeting. We're in Nashville, orthopedic surgeon, flat screen TVs, whatever it is. You want to have those words, that phrase, in your meta description as well. Yoast is going to help us. There are two different ways that the plugin helps us make sure the title is in the right place, a good title is in the right place, and a good meta description. The first of those two ways that the plugin helps us is by allowing us to kind of set a global template of here's what we want our title on pages to be, here's what we want our post titles to be, here's what we want our category page, our tag pages, any other taxonomies that you use. Here's the structure that we want to use for our titles. And so when we're setting up a new website, we take a look at each client's situation, and we decide what should go first in the title, what should go second, what should go third. We come up with a default format. And so a very typical format for your titles might be the name of the page or the name of the post. So if I'm writing a post about, WordCamp Nashville 2013 review, and that's the title of my blog post, well, that might be what I want to have as the beginning of the title on that blog post page. Does that make sense? And so with the global template, I can use the Yoast plugin to say, okay, whatever the title of the post is, or the page, or whatever, put that first as the title there, the headline being used in the title. I might also then want to have, my default format to be some type of separator, a colon or a comma or a pipe or something like that, or even just a space. And then maybe at the end of it, I want to have company name or tagline. Those are some of the common examples where we might set up a default format that automatically gets created as the title. You can do that for both. You can do that for both the title, and you can also do that for the meta description to make sure that on each of your pages you have that you are consciously thinking a little about the title and the meta description. So this is the first thing that we do. This is kind of the fundamental thing. You want to make sure that you have a good format set up for title and meta descriptions. But the real power of this plugin is the second way that you can adjust these, and that's on each individual page, each individual post. So how many of you guys currently use WordPress? You got a website up? Okay? And so how many of you guys kind of recognize up here at the top? This is where you would be adding or editing a page. Looks something kind of like that. All right, so on that part of your WordPress dashboard, where you would be going in to add a page or to edit a page, down below, if you've got the WordPress SEO plugin by Yoast installed, you're going to see a section down here that looks like this. There are 3 tabs. Let's zoom in and take a look at the first tab, because this is where you kind of override those general settings on the template. So the template that we just set up, use my title first and use the name of my company next. That's a great baseline, but honestly what I suggest you to do is take another minute or 5 minutes and think about, can you craft a better title? Can you craft a better description for this individual article that you're writing? And this is where you can easily make these changes. So let me step you through the different things here. I've mentioned this is where you would put in the title, and this is a page on my website for the National SEO Week that we run every month. And this is an example I'm going to use throughout here. So this is where you can override the template. And so I decided that I could craft that a little bit better instead of it just being Nashville SEO and to the top web design. I decided that it would look better. If I changed the title to look like this. Oh, and this is up here, the snippet preview. That's a preview of what, when you make these changes, that's what it's probably going to look like when it shows up on Google. So that's a really nice tool here. So you can control the title here, and you can control the meta description right down there below it. And then you get the top part here is your snippet preview, so that you can kind of say, ooh, this is what it's going to look like on Google. Is that the way I want it to look? And this next section here allows you to put in a focus keyword. What are you trying to rank #1 on? I want to rank #1 for Nashville SEO. And so I typed in the phrase Nashville SEO, and built into this plugin, there's kind of an automated checking system, analysis system that says, did you do some fundamental SEO work? And let me show you what it says here. So the first thing it says is, did you include your focus keyword phrase? I might call it query sometimes, but National SEO. Did you include National SEO in the article title? And the answer is yes. Did you include it in the page title? The answer is yes. Is it included in the page URL? And the answer is yes. Did you include it in the content? And the answer is yes. And did you include it in the meta description? And the answer is yes. Just one side comment, you do not want to stuff this phrase. If you're targeting Nashville SEO or flat screen TVs, you don't want to stuff that phrase, but you do want to use it in, these are some of the right places where you need to include it. And so this is a very quick check on whether you have them in the right place or not. Let me go on to the next tab over here. This is an expanded version of the analysis. And so I've got all green lights on everything. It checks to see if you have kind of enough words, because in general, if you only have 20 words on a page, you're not going to impress Google that you've got great content. You probably don't have enough space. So it says I've got 765 words on that page. That's plenty. It says that page title is more than 40 characters and less than. It says your page title is long enough but not too long. So it goes through some checks. The only couple of things where I didn't get a green light on are the first two things. It says that your meta description is a little long. I'm fine with that. I know that I'm about 5 or 10 characters over what's kind of considered optimal. I'm okay with that. And the second part is it says that it's given me a rating on a tool that grades how difficult or how easy it is to read the text. And it says I've got 60 out of 100. I'm fine with that. Keep in mind that the analysis that comes through here, it is one person's opinion of what you should do. And so my opinion of what these things should be looking at is very similar, but at the same time, I'm not concerned that I have a couple of yellow things there. That's not hurting my SEO. If you're just starting out, if you're trying to understand how SEO works, fantastic tool for you to take a quick look at. If you bring me in to give my opinion, I will probably have a very comparable opinion, but I may say, I'd do that a little different. And that just comes from years and years of doing this and experience and seeing a lot of different things and giving you a custom answer as opposed to an automated answer. There is a third tab down here. It is the advanced tab. How many of you guys are professional search engine optimization experts? You can use that tab, nobody else uses it. Because honestly, this is where there are some extremely fine level controls of what you can do from an SEO perspective with your page. I honestly rarely use these tools. It can get you in a lot of trouble if you use these things the wrong way. So just be aware it's there. It's fantastic when I need to be able to, it's like, oh, I wish I could tweak that. The Yoast SEO plugin allows me to do that. But for the most part, you're never going to need to get on this, this third tab. So, you do a Google search for SEO, and we do pretty well. For national SEO, currently we're showing up in the #1 position, and I will credit the Yoast SEO plugin as part of the reason why we're able to rank really well. And this is why I use this on every website that I build for, either for myself or for my clients. Next thing that I said that I think that the plugin can really help you with, it kind of guides the search engines in the direction of, hey, we want you to find this and we want you to stay away from this. There are two components to this. The first one is an XML sitemap. It's automatically generated. How many of you guys know what a sitemap is? Okay, so a sitemap is kind of a very scaled, it's like an outline. It's like, here are all the pages and posts on my website, and just kind of a list like an outline is the general concept of a sitemap. You can have a sitemap that's more intended for people to use, which is perfectly fine to have. And you can also have an XML sitemap, which is more of a code-based thing that's intended for the search engines to do. I think that it is not a huge benefit to have an XML sitemap. Don't pay somebody $1,000 to create an XML sitemap for you, because you're not going to get that much extra benefit out of it. But guess what? This plugin generates it automatically. That's fantastic. It's worth a little. It's worth a little there. And as you learn more about search engine optimization, you'll find that there are a handful of things that can really kill you. There are a handful of things that help a lot, and then there are a whole bunch of little things that make a difference. There are so many nuances to this that as you get further and further into it, the answer to almost every question is, it depends. So, the XML sitemap is generated automatically. How many of you guys know what a robots.txt file is? Okay, so the robots.txt file is a little file. It's very powerful because it basically says, hey, search engines, stay out. Okay, and I will give you an example. There was a web design company that they built a new website. They were developing the new website to replace the old website. The old website was rocking and rolling on Google and everything, and they were developing the new website, and they had a robots.txt file on the development site, as they should, because they say, hey, Google, stay away from the development site until it's live. And so they got done building the new website, and they got rid of what had been there, and they moved the development site to, here it is, world, and they forgot to remove the robots.txt file. And the robots.txt file says, Google, stay away. And about a week later, I realized what I had done. Oh, they realized what they had done. So a very powerful tool if you have parts of your website that you want the search engines to stay away from. How many of you guys ever seen Tag Cloud? It doesn't have to look like this. It might be square. But how many of you guys know what tags are, or you've heard about tags in WordPress? Okay, so tags can be helpful from an online visibility SEO perspective. However, the vast majority of the time where I see tags being used on websites, they are misused and they cause problems. Let's take a look at why it causes problems. And this is the third thing. This is related to the third part of what Yoast can help you with. We talked about Yoast the plugin can help you put the right words in the right places. It can also guide the search engines, kind of like a GPS, to find the good and stay away from the bad. The third main thing that the Yoast plugin can help you do is to avoid duplicate content. And when you have multiple versions of the exact same thing, that's bad from a search engine perspective, okay? And so tags are one of the main problems with having duplicate content potential in Google. So let me kind of step you through an example. This is a website that I found randomly. They're a company here in Nashville. I've got no connection with them. I just came across their website. If you're with them, here's some free advice for you. They have on the side of their web page here, they have a whole bunch of tags. They have a tag cloud. The concept of tags is it's another way to organize your content. So if people are looking for, I want to find all the posts that have something to do with Ty Herndon, you can click on that Ty Herndon page and you'll go to the tag page, which theoretically lists all of the posts, all of the pages on the websites that are tagged with Ty Herndon. And so people create tags because they think, okay, I've written something that's about this and that and the other thing. Conceptually, that's perfectly fine. However, it almost always, when I see this implemented, it causes SEO problems and duplicate content. So here's an example of what I found on their website. They've got great content on their website. They're a PR company. They write press releases. They are excellent writers. They have good content that people would be interested in finding. Here is an article that they wrote last year about the 2012-2013 CRS Agenda Committee announcement. Great. Somebody's going to be interested in that. It's well-written, good content. At the top of the page, they have a whole bunch of things that they have tagged with it. One of the things that they tagged this page was with United Stations. And so when they tag it with United Stations, the website, WordPress, looks to see, do we already have a tag page created about United Stations? If no, it creates a new page on their website. Here's all the posts that are tagged with United Stations. Well, there wasn't one, so it created a new tag page. Here's the problem. There's only one post that's tagged with United Stations. So this page, which is the real page, is exactly the same content as this second page. Google says, how did you add value by giving us that second page? You with me so far? They also tagged it with WQDR, and this is the only post that is tagged with WQDR. So they now have 3 copies of the exact same content. They also tagged it with WXFL. So they've now got, is that quadruplets we've got now? We've got quadruplets now. They also tagged it with radio-info.com, so we have quintuplets now. And they also tagged it with WUSY. So is that sextuplets? 6? So just with the original piece of content and tag pages, they have 6 exact same versions from Google's perspective. It's the same thing on 6 different pages. There are a number of reasons why this is an issue, and unfortunately, tags are not the only thing built into WordPress that can cause this problem. And so this is one of having duplicate content multiple times created by WordPress. It's a common occurrence. The Yoast WordPress SEO plugin can help you avoid this. I want to just show you also, this is what it looks like from Google's perspective. How many of you guys have ever seen this little command up here? You type into Google and you type in the word cite in a colon. It's called the cite command. Extremely powerful command. When I'm doing an audit of somebody's website, this is literally the first thing I do. If you type in the word cite and a colon, no spaces, and then put in the domain name, you're saying, hey Google, how many pages do you know about on this site? And Google is happy to say, well, we know about 2,820 pages from this website. And that's fine, but usually what I say is, hey client, how many pages do you have on your website? And if they say, I don't know, about 2,000, 3,000, I say, okay, that sounds about right. If they say 20,000, I say there's a problem. And if they say 50, there's a problem, okay? And so let's take a look at some of these 2,820 pages that Google has found on their website. So the next thing I did was I said, okay Google, of those pages on their website, how many of them have tag in the URL? And Google says, oh, there's 1,700 of those. They have 1,700 tag pages on their website. Out of the 2,800 total, 1,700 of them are tag pages. They have 1,700 potential duplicate content issues here. You with me so far? And one of the biggest problems with duplicate content is you're essentially diluting your authority in Google. If you have pages that aren't really adding any, if you've got 2,000 or 10,000 pages of good content, that's great. Do all you can. But if it's just the same thing over and over, Google's not interested in those duplicates, and you're diluting your power in Google. You want to eliminate as many of those as possible. And so first off, we see, I hit my thing. Okay, so 1,700 of them are tag pages. And then I said, Google, how many of those are category pages? And Google said 146 of them are category pages. So they've got a whole bunch of categories on their website, another way to organize their content. And so I said, okay, I'm going to use a whole bunch of these little fancy, we call them advanced operators in Google, to try to figure out how many real pages of stuff do they have on their website. Who thinks, okay, so they had 2,800 total. Who thinks they have more than 1,000 pages of real stuff on their website? More than 600. More than 500. Google says 395. My best estimate using Google is that they have a little less than 400 pages of real live content on their website that should be ranking for something in Google. But they have diluted their authority because they've got 2,400 extra pages that are just duplicate junk, adding no value from Google's perspective. If they would eliminate the duplicate content, the remaining 300, 400 pages would all have more authority to each of them because they're diluting their authority, and the remaining 395 pages would rank better on Google. Does that make sense? So, what does the Yoast plugin do? Yes, ma'am, you got a question?
I do. So should we not use tags, or should you?
Yeah, I'll get you there. Okay. Jumping the gun. Wait a minute, let me rephrase that. Great question. Great question. Next slide. Next slide. Fantastic. Okay, so how does the plugin help us? It helps us in a couple of different ways. So the primary thing is that in the Yoast settings, there is a titles and meta section, and over here there is a taxonomy section. How many of you guys know what taxonomy means? Taxonomy just means the way you organize stuff. So you can organize stuff by date, right? You ever seen a date-based archive on a blog? Okay, so you can organize it by date. You can organize it by category. You can organize it by author, right? You can organize it by tags. We've been talking about that. And you might come up with some other way that you organize it. But taxonomy just means organization, the way that you find stuff, and the way you've got your site structured. Does that help? Okay? So under taxonomies, the plugin says, okay, we talked about you can have a title template and a meta description template. You're already going to have those to make sure you've got a good baseline. But down here, this is super important. Meta robots. You remember we talked about the robots.txt file a minute ago? The robots.txt file is a big global thing that says stay away from this whole section or my whole website. On each individual page, you can have a little robots, we call it the meta robots file, that says stay away from this page, or something like that. And there is an option here that for all of your categories, do you want, it's no index followed, that means Google, don't put these in your database. Look at them, but don't include them in the 2,800 pages because we've really only got 395 pages. So what I usually recommend is that you primarily use categories to organize your content. You shouldn't have, if you've only got 300 pages of good content, you don't need 200 categories. You probably don't even need 50 categories. If you've got 200 pages of content, you ought to be able to make do with 5 or 10 or maybe 15 categories, but you don't need 100. Okay? So use categories is what I generally recommend. Use them to some degree sparingly. And leave this alone here because we do want Google to look at categories. That's the primary place where we want Google to look at things and find things. But tags are different. My two recommendations there are either use them sparingly or don't use them at all. If you have 300 pages of real content and you've got 100 tags, that's fine, but you don't need 1,000 tags. You with me? I try to have less than that. If I've got, I'm changing my numbers all over the place. If I've got 100 pages of content, I try to have, maybe 5, 10, maybe 20 different tags. If you've got 30 or 40 or 50, that's fine. Don't have more tags than you have pages. Does that make sense? Use them sparingly or use them not at all. We also mentioned that you can look for things by authors. Okay, that's another area. How many of you guys have a website or blog where you're the only one? Okay, so about half the room. I think it's perfectly fine to also turn off the author archive, because if you're the only author, then your author archive is exactly the same as your date-based archive, is exactly the same as your other archive, is exactly the same thing as your other archive. Next thing, the last thing I'll mention here is your date-based archive. I almost always just completely turn it off. But if you want to make the date-based archive available for people because you think that people really want to look at your posts and pages based upon when you wrote them, then use, here we go, use the meta robots tag, this no index follow, and that will tell Google, hey Google, go ahead and look at it. We've got them there, but don't put those into Google. So these are the settings that I typically use back here to try to minimize duplicate content on a wholesale level. Yes, ma'am?
So those two, if you just click those two things, you will also disable the author archive and the database. Just say it.
Right. So the way that WordPress works is you write something, and there's going to be a main page or post, where that really resides. And then in addition to that, WordPress is built that you can slice and dice the organization of your content, because maybe somebody wants to go into the musicians category, and maybe somebody wants to go and look at just Ty Herndon type stuff. And WordPress gives you a lot of flexibility in how you can set up your organization. The problem is it gets misused, overused, because people don't primarily understand the SEO ramifications of having all the different content in all these different ways. And so my recommendations are going to be minimize your use of categories, minimize your use of tags, minimize the use or don't use author archives if you're a single author. If you've got multiple authors, go ahead and use it. But on the date-based archive, I almost never use it. I don't think that most people want to consume content that way. You might have a different situation and it's fine to use something else. Did that help?
Is that how you can disable these?
Yes. The settings that you've seen here are how I typically set up a website. Every situation's a little different, but these are kind of the main things that I do. And this slide deck will be online. You'll get a link to it through WordCamp National. Yes, sir. Mike?
Disabling any of these settings, does that jeopardize your Google authorship standing, or not really?
No, there's Google authorship. How many of you guys know what Google authorship is? Okay, so when you search for something and you see somebody's face on Google next to a listing, like we did when we searched for national SEO, and you saw Ross smiling back at you, the way the techniques process that's going on behind the scenes to have that show up is called Google authorship. Over the last, just recently, Google has really been on an effort to try to identify the individual person who is the author of every piece of content on the internet. And there are some benefits to identifying yourself. So that's referred to as authorship. And the question is, do disabling any of these things jeopardize your authorship information and how Google looks at it? And my best estimate right now is what I've described. No, you're good. Earlier this year, within the last year, I gave a presentation on authorship, and my recommendation was a little different then. But authorship is relatively new to Google, and it's an evolving thing. Google's trying to get better at it. Were any of you guys at that meeting where we talked about authorship? It was at that point, it was still kind of a convoluted process. Okay, Google's getting better at it. They're not perfect, but I think if you follow the settings that I've got, you won't have a problem. All right, so let's move on to the next piece, which is I just want to overview this. Google helps you primarily with the relevancy side. There's some indirect things that it helps you with the authority side, but everything that Google looks at falls into those two categories of relevancy and authority. It is a fantastic plugin to help you with the SEO fundamentals, because the default settings out of the box, there's a ton of settings in the Yoast SEO plugin. The default settings are going to help just about everybody. And if you are an advanced, if you're advanced in optimization, or you bring in somebody who's got an advanced knowledge or skill set to help you with your optimization, the amount of control that you have through the Yoast SEO plugin is tremendous, and you can do a lot of things to try to help improve your visibility. At the same time, I want you to know this is not the only plugin that I use, and it's not the only plugin that's available from Yoast, from Yoast Evolve, because he also provides a movie. He's eating his popcorn. He also has a plugin that specifically helps video SEO. You know when you sometimes search on Google and you see a video? Okay, so that's a little different. And so there's a specific plugin that you can get from Yoast for video SEO. That's a premium plugin. You do have to pay a little for that. There is also, how many of you guys have local-oriented websites? You focus on Middle Tennessee or Nashville or a particular area. Local SEO is a little different. That's actually our last topic last month at the Nashville SEO group. Yoast has a specific local SEO plugin that you can get from them that helps you with a few things. How many of you guys produce news as content? You're a publisher of news. There's a specific Google News algorithm, and there's a Yoast News SEO plugin that you can get as well. And then finally, how many of you guys are using Google Analytics? I hope it's everybody. It's a fantastic tool and it's free. It's kind of the industry standard out there. Yoast has another plugin, very well coded plugins that make it very easy for you to implement analytics and give you a little advanced horsepower with that. So that's the end of what I've got to talk about, but we've got time to take a few questions. Does that help? Everybody good? Okay. We're going to start right here.
Just have these SEO groups that you mentioned.
Sure.
Is there any way to access them from online?
Okay, so the Nashville SEO group, we get together once a month. We almost always run video, and occasionally the video ends up online instead of just staying on my hard drive. And so if you'll go to my website, it's To The Top Design, or you connect with me on social media and hit me up. We've got probably about 8 or 10 videos from the last couple of years that are posted online, and hopefully we'll get around to editing and uploading some of the old ones. So thank you. And yes, ma'am.
Just give me a sense of what is SEO-wise best, posts or pages, and just a little background on either one.
Okay, so from an SEO perspective, from a WordPress and an SEO perspective, they're kind of the same thing. The way that I personally decide whether I'm using a page or a post is a post is more time dependent. So if I'm talking about a newsworthy event or a current event or something that's happening, I'm typically going to use a post. If I'm talking about something that's more evergreen, that the content is not going to change, it's not going to go away, maybe I'm going to update it once or twice a year, but the content, the idea is going to be the same. I'm going to use a page. I'll give you an example on my website. On my website, I list the services that we provide. We provide website presence audits, SEO audits. We provide, WordPress web design. We provide SEO consulting. The handful of services that we provide, those are pages. Because we're always, for the most part, we're always going to provide those same things, and they're not going to change dramatically on a regular basis. On the other hand, I'll put together a blog post about the upcoming SEO meeting we're talking about is Google Plus for Businesses. And I'll put together a post on Google Plus for Businesses, some current information about Google Plus for Businesses. And by the way, you can come join us on May 2nd at Belmont. From an SEO perspective, there are some nuanced differences there, but for the most part, they're about the same.
Can the post be attached to the particular page so that
You can link between anything. You can link between anything that you've got, but pages and posts are they're kind of the same thing as far as WordPress is. It's more of an organization type
Well,
thing.
I'm thinking about your customer.
Okay.
What will they, you're gonna use a category to connect them?
You could potentially do that. It's going to be different in every situation.
And how many categories can you maximum categories would you recommend?
As-
Just to try to minimize all of that.
I would try to minimize the number of categories I've had. I'm sorry, the answer is it depends on your situation. The one constant with how many categories you should have is honestly as few as you can get away with. Let's move on to the next question. Yes, ma'am.
I've got a specific question over the titles that you created.
Sure.
So like the SEO title that you had.
Okay.
Okay, so we write a blog about fun stuff you do with your family in Nashville, so it's a local blog. So say we write a post about the Nashville Zoo.
Okay.
So right now, yeah.
I'll get there.
Okay, good problem.
I'm listening.
Okay, so now we would have like Nashville Zoo with the spacer and then our website address, Nashville
Okay.
Fun for Family, so we've got the meta, we're using SEO videos. So you instead said, Nashville SEO group, see, if it was comparable to what we're doing now, instead of saying learn about SEO for free, we have the bar and then the website address.
Okay.
Now, would it be better, instead of saying Nashville Zoo and then our website address, to say Nashville Zoo, a family photo review with pictures? Would that be picked up better? Does that make sense?
Well, there's two parts to this. Okay. So there's the SEO aspect.
Right, well, that's what I'm asking.
There's the SEO aspect, and you're trying to think about what people are going to search for. So you might be people might search for Nashville Zoo, or Nashville Zoo pictures, or Nashville Zoo review, or something like that. And so as long as you get those words in both of the options that you talked about would be relatively equally good from an SEO perspective. But the second part of it, let me show you this. The second part of it is, regardless of where you rank, is somebody going to click on you? And so here's part of the reason why I changed the title on mine the way it is, because most of the companies that offer SEO, their title is Nashville SEO, or Nashville SEO Company, or help with Nashville SEO, or something like that. They're all the same, okay? And so I decided to, regardless of where I rank, I decided to make mine kind of jump out with a nice call to action. And so I think that by crafting it that way, that's different than everybody else's.
Right.
And also, I used the word free, which is kind of magic. That's a big part of why I did that. Does that help?
Yeah, so do you think it would be better to craft something more like what you've got?
Yes.
Higher that way than the title
Yes,
and
yes.
the website and then the standard?
I think you would be better off, because what you described first was kind of the default. It's a good start, but go ahead and spend a little time and craft it a little better.
Thank you.
And I think this is going to be the last question, because we've got 1 minute and then we're done.
Oh, okay, this might be a silly question, but say you have this as a search. Well, one of my websites that I hand coded a long time ago, and I've been updating it, but it's all hand coded.
Okay.
I will get the name of the company,
Okay.
and I'll get a breakdown of pages under it.
Yep.
So about us.
Yep.
Is,
When you see that on Google, you'll see a breakdown. That's referred to as site links in Google. And Google tries to understand the different areas and sections of your website that people might be interested in. You usually see that where somebody searches on Google, you see one or more of your pages, but then you see some additional links to people within your website. They call them site links. Google is trying to understand. They think They're really trying to find you as opposed to a whole bunch of different websites, and they're trying to give people a way to easily access deeper sections of your website.
I want to know how to do that in Yoast.
It's primarily based upon do you have good organizational structure. And so honestly, the default WordPress infrastructure does do a lot with that. Hey guys, we're done. I'll be around the rest of the day and I'll find you at the after party.